We're now joined by Dmitrii Elovskii. He's the editor and presenter at Vozducha. I probably missed Vozduch, right? Yeah, Vozduch, sorry. Like Kherson, the KH YouTube channel, and former deputy editor-in-chief of TV Rain, and he joins us from Lithuania. Thank you very much for being with us. First and foremost, I want to ask you what happens now.
Hello. Well, thank you very much for having me. And first of all, Shana Tova to you and to all your viewers. What we now see is actually pretty interesting because, yes, that sham, that fake referendums are done. But we don't see that State Duma and that the Russian president are in any way hurry to go on with these figures, with that wheel of Russian people as they used to treat it. Basically, what we know now is that Russian Parliament will gather on Monday to discuss this subject, and both houses will do it on Monday. And we are actually waiting for some sort of a speech from President Putin, which will take place on Friday, I believe. And also there is supposed to be some sort of a concert, a big show in Russian capital in will take place also on Friday, but we do not know any timings of that. We do not know when President will address the parliament. We do not know when Russian pop stars will gather to sing and celebrate these fake and sham referendums. We thought that something would go much quicker, much faster, but we don't witness it by this stage at this time.
But you're saying that there's a speech, that speech, of course, that is a very anticipated one by Putin on Friday. You think he might not then announce the annexation of those regions? You say that he might wait for Monday for the Duma to convene?
Maybe, yes. Maybe he will have to sleep over it, to spend a weekend with these sorts of new Russian territories. I believe so. You know that we've been witnessing another speech of Russian president about demobilization last week, and it was postponed for, I think, 15 hours or even more. So we are seeing that the Russian president these days is not very sure. He's not that tough guy as we used to know him, as we witness him. And I think there are lots of processes going on these days in Kremlin and inside the head of Russian dictator, but we don't know what exactly exactly we should expect from him.
Okay, you know, we're seeing, Dmitrii, those visuals that came in over the last few days of what seems to be like military officers with rifles threatening, perhaps, Ukrainian families to go and vote and to go and vote for the annexation. Of course, I saw these reports in various sources, in the British Telegraph and elsewhere. How verified are they? Because it could also seem like polling stations that I saw were guarded, of course, by soldiers and military. How verified, according to your awareness, are those reports that people were actually made by police officers to vote, to go and vote, and to go and vote for the annexation?
You see, I don't believe that people were like threatened with the soldiers or officers with the guns pointed at them by the moment they are voting. But the atmosphere actually itself is pretty dangerous. And when you, for instance, like sit at your home and wait for a polling station to come at your house, and suddenly a guy with a gun appears at your door, what will you think? What will you do? I mean, it's not even necessary to point a gun. It's just enough to see a person with a gun. And the propaganda, you know, we should never forget about it. It works heavily, and people in that regions that were voting to go into Russia these days, they are huge victims of propaganda because they don't have internet in many villages, in many cities, in many towns. They don't have any access to Ukrainian mass media. They are actually very much brainwashed. But, you know, the funny thing is that I believe that Putin didn't wait for such results and for people, for not that many people showing up at the polling stations, because he thought it would be like something similar to Crimea.
How many showed up, Dmitrii? How many showed up? What was the turnout?
Well, I have figures now with me. For instance, if we discuss Zaporozhye region, okay, by the year of 2020, there used to live 1,300,000 people there, and only 38,000 people have voted right now there. So it's like 2.5%, something like that. And the figures are quite similar to other regions that were taking part in the referendum these days.
Wow.
It's ridiculous.
That's very little. Before we part, and we don't have much time, around 2 minutes left, I do want to ask you about the great migration that we're seeing of young men leaving Russia today. And I understand that on the border, they're being drafted, many of them, upon their attempt to escape. Is this still going on, or you think that everybody who was thinking to leave the country already left?
No, I know that the traffic jams on Russian borders are still huge, and people are still trying to go away from mobilization, from the war, in which they don't want to take any part. And the very dramatic situation is on the border between Russia and Georgia, but also on the border between Russia and Kazakhstan. What we see on the Russian-Georgian border is really a huge humanitarian crisis. People don't have water there, don't have like simple commodities, they don't have food, and they have to spend days there. My actually friend from Moscow has spent like 3 days there, and spent a night standing near border when he was seeing already the point. It was like 100 meters, and that took him a whole night to get through that 100 meters. Can you imagine?
Yeah. Dmitrii Elovskii, thank you very much. And we're seeing there in the images, I think it's not just young men who don't want to get drafted, it's whole families that are moving together with these young men
Exactly.
for new lives elsewhere. Thank you for your kind wishes for a happy Jewish New Year. I appreciate that for us and our viewers.
Thank
and
you.
I wish you a very peaceful New Year with good resolutions.
Yes, same to you.